Hello, welcome to me, Fieros Reborn. Why Reborn? Why Reborn? Reborn because I deleted my first channel, which was just called Fieros Wilson. I deleted it earlier this year. Yeah, I think. This year's been a long year. Long. I've been very aware of everything that's been happening as I go through it. Oh God, suddenly getting a cramp in my feet. Yeah. Ow, that's painful. Ugh. Um. So yeah. Oh, whatever. Here we are. I'm gonna burp. Yeah. Good. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. All right. So the name of the video is Fieros' Story Time, and then there's something else in the title that you know, but I don't. All right. So where have we got to in the story of my life? Let's start at the beginning. Work our way forward. 2004. Finished school. Got good A levels. I got good A levels. Previously, I've been saying that I'm just really disappointed with my B. But I got good A levels. Yes! I got good A levels. Yes! Yes! I got good A levels. Yeah, I did. I got good A levels. I got good A levels. Good A levels. That was an achievement. Even though I didn't get exactly the marks that I wanted to, I still got good A levels. I got good A levels. That's a revelation in itself. See, all this time I've been focusing on this one B that I didn't like because it wasn't perfect. But I got good A levels. I got good A levels, people. Good A levels. AAB. Good A levels. I'd also got good GCSEs. And now I have failed my former promise by being a sit-about, lay-about loser. Loser! Right, that's just a joke. I don't actually think of myself as a loser, or do I? Part of me does. And it is the evil part. But mostly I don't. Anyway, so I got good A levels. Maybe I got a present from my gran, which was a car, because I got good A levels. I can't remember. But it was for my 18th birthday. I got given a car for my birthday, which was a Rover 25, 2001. Rover 25 green. Made in 2001. I still remember the number plate. W908 RLF. But it's now gone to the scrapper because that car started having engine troubles, and it was going to cost like 600 quid to fix it, and we couldn't have sold it for 600 quid, so we just thought if it's going to cost more than the value of the car to keep it going, then let's get rid of it. And then I bought a Renault Clio after that, black Renault Clio, second hand. It had like a little hole in the seating where someone had burned a hole in it by accident with the cigarette or with the cigarette lighter, I don't know. But whatever, that was cool. It's part of his quirk and its charm. Yeah, so I had help from my dad to pay for that one, I believe. I paid £1,000 of it and I got 700 or something help from my dad because my parents were very supportive in those days, and they still are supportive financially because I haven't yet figured out how to earn my money myself fully. I've got my plans, kind of, but it's just I'm not quite at the point where I'm monetizing things fully yet, but little dribs and drabs are coming in here and there, so that's good. It's a start. It's a start. So that's it. I finished school. Got good A levels. I was with a nice girlfriend, even though most of our relationship was in drama for a lot of the time, but a lot of it was also good sex and intelligent conversation and good times. But I was in suffering most of the time anyway. I think I would have been in suffering regardless of the relationship. Like, I was trapped in my head and I couldn't escape the sort of feeling of suffering or pain or dread, or angst is a good word. Angst. I was a very angsty kind of person. I was always like feeling. I'd always have the feeling tone of pain in my brain, pain in my brain, pain in my brain. Even when things were good, I'd still have in the background this kind of nagging sense of unease, disease, dissatisfaction, displeasure, some feeling. Yeah. Okay, pardon me. So I finished my job at Legoland because the season ended. There was nothing to do. I was in a band. My singer-songwriter, writing partner Steph left the band to pursue her own projects in different genres. She wanted to go heavier. She wanted to go into screamo, and I wasn't into screamo at that time. Still not really into screamo either. Anything with screaming is a bit kind of like... But no, to be fair, it's just like, I don't know what my taste is. Sometimes I really need that kind of screaming thing, but most of the time I'm like, oh, what are you even saying? Like, what's the point? What's the point if I don't know what you're even saying? You know, shut up. Just shut up. Speak intelligently. Okay, or fuck off. That's fine. That's fine on one level, and I do like it. As I say, when I'm in a certain mood, I just need that unintelligible anger, rage feeling. But most of the time, I'm like, what are you even saying? And then you read the lyrics, you think, I'm glad I didn't know what you were saying, because it's total tripe. It's nonsense about death, dead bodies, necrophilia, and putrid corpses. Oh, I mean, you fuck off. Why do I need to? I don't need that shit. Yeah. Sorry if I've just rained on your death metal parade or whatever, but for me, speak intelligently, sing intelligently, or fuck off. From my ears. Unless I'm in a rage mood. Anyway, I'm blabbering about my heartfelt opinions about absolute nonsense. Okay, so I finished school. I finished my job at Legoland. Needed another job. I was in a band. My singer-songwriter, co-writer, writing partner Steph quit the band because she wanted to do other things. She wanted to do screamo. I did not want to do screamo. We tried introducing some heavier, punky elements into our music, but she still wasn't happy, so she ended up leaving anyway. Like, there was nothing I could do. I tried to persuade her to stay, and she was just like, nah, sorry, I'm done. Around that same time, my girlfriend was cheating on me. I found out that she was cheating on me because I grilled her like a steak over the fire of doom, and she said, yes, I have slept with the guy, and so I have kissed him. Yes, I have slept in his bed. Yes, we have had sex. That was the order of progression of how I got it out of her. Because I saw that she was flirting with him in the same way that she would flirt with me. That's how I first initially guessed that it was like that. And I was like, okay. And I noticed that she didn't know how to behave around him and me being in the same room. So I was like, okay. She'd also been playing strip poker while I was on holiday, and that was freaking me out anyway. So yeah, that went down the drain. Okay, we said goodbye, but we didn't say fully goodbye. We stayed friends for a while. Okay, I went to work at the Outback Steakhouse in Staines. I got a job as a server, which is the name for waiter. I did the training. There were two other wieners who started at the same time as me, one tall guy and one short guy. The short guy stayed, the tall guy didn't stay for very long. Short guy was called Ivan. He ended up getting married to a girl who was also working there, who was called Lucy. And I don't know if they're still together, but Ivan and Lucy was a thing. I can't believe they got married. It's so weird. Like, they got together as a boyfriend and girlfriend, and then, like, not very long after, they got married, within a year. I don't know how long it was. Anyway, it was weird. You had Shrek and Ula. They were a partnership who they were already together, girlfriend and boyfriend, for a long time. Polish couple. They were good fun. They were good people. Yeah, honest people, good people. Spoke good English as well, so we could have good conversations. So yeah, it was all good. And then I started off being quite shit at the job. but willing to learn. I was really, really willing at that job. I really wanted to do well. I think there was such a good incentive at that job because of the tips, and because it was a large corporation. The systems of the whole thing were very structured, and it was very like well done. So everything was put together really crisply. You know, they had their whole decor. It all came from head office. Everything was. They had systems and ways of doing things that made for an effective business and an effectively run establishment, right? So in that sense, it was a really good job because it was a big company and things were being run on the most part pretty well. They had a decent management team, apart from the kitchen manager, who was a total dickhead, but decent management team to begin with, and for the most part, a good bunch of people to work with, especially on the front of house. The front of house people were good to work with. The kitchen staff were a bit kind of ratty and moody all the time, so they weren't as much fun. In fact, the whole of the kitchen was a bunch of dicks. Yeah, apart from one guy who was the head chef, who was fairly sound and had a sense of humour. Oggo, good name, Oggo. So Charlie was a person who worked there. He was younger than me. I was 19 when it was coming to New Year's on that year. So this is the same year that Andrea and I broke up. When it was coming to New Year's, I decided that I needed to move on because I honestly really wanted to be back with her, and I hadn't fully accepted the fact that it was over, and I wanted to continue in the relationship. But she was with that other guy, and I sort of felt like, maybe I had some vain hope that maybe she would just forget about him, figure out he wasn't for her, and then she'd come back to me. You know, it's just because I missed her and I hadn't fully accepted the loss, and I just wanted her back. Right? I don't really think I was doing anything much about it, apart from maybe being in contact with her still. But I wasn't pestering her, or I wasn't making anything to try and bring her back. I was just passively hoping, basically. I wasn't really doing anything to make it happen. But when it was coming up to New Year's Eve, that like the lead up for the few weeks or so beforehand, I was thinking to myself, right, if she doesn't come back to me by New Year's, or if I don't have any significant movements in that direction from her, then I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to start again. I'm going to cut my hair off. I'm going to start a new image, a new life, a new beginning, and try and forget about her, even though I couldn't ever forget about her, but I was going to try. And I was going to say, that's it, that new beginning, right? So New Year's came along. She hadn't come back. So I cut my hair off. I changed my clothes slightly. I think I just bought some new clothes that were more grunge, more in my style. I just wanted to go in a new direction slightly. It wasn't massively new direction. I bought this new belt. I remember buying this new belt with the stud, like back in those days, where studded belts were a thing. Like these metal, it was like a metal thing, like metal grungy metaler type of thing. Studded belt, these kind of worn jeans. I bought a blazer actually as well. No, I didn't buy the blazer. I already had the blazer. Sorry. Then I bought one of these stupid Illuminati dollar bills with the Illuminati symbol and loads of different sort of symbolic drawings on this dollar bill, right? And put that in the top pocket permanently. So silly. I bought these patches. I bought a patch of a smiley face, and I ironed that onto my butt cheek on my jeans, and had this whole new look, right? This is my new look. I don't remember what I was wearing in the maybe just t-shirts or something, a band t-shirt or something, yeah. And so I had this whole new look, maybe even with a shirt underneath. So I was trying to create this new look. I don't know what I was doing, but I liked it. I actually felt most myself with regard to my dress sense during that phase of my life than probably any of the other dress senses I'd ever gone through, because that was something that I'd kind of chosen each part. Maybe it looked stupid to other people, but I felt like, yeah, no, this is all good. This all means something. The happy thing, because I was thinking about happiness and wanting to be happy and making other people happy, blah, blah, blah. metal things. I was into the grunge and the rock, not the screamo. Fuck screamo, man. Anyway, so yeah, and when I changed my look and my hair, from being, it was like just long, shoulder length, in a ponytail. I mean, I'd have to tie it up in the ponytail for work, but it was normally kind of shoulder length, dark, browny, purpley, ginger roots, browny, purpley, black coloured hair, which was just looked a mess. Honestly, it was not a good look. Cut it off, went back to my natural colour. Got myself a little sort of pinstripe beard. What's a pinstripe beard? A thin strip of beard there, which looked a bit silly, but it was cool for that time. I was going to see if I've got any pictures of it lying around. No, I don't. Okay, Charlie found me attractive. Charlie wanted to get with me. Charlie wanted to convert me from being straight. I was curious anyway. I wasn't sure of my sexuality. From school, I'd been bullied for years about being gay. I never actually had the opportunity to even think about being gay. I even promised myself when I was 12 years old that because I got my first pube on my balls, and actually growing pubes was an itchy experience. Just want to say that. To the teenage years of growing pubes, my balls were itchy all the time, and I was like, I don't know, why are they itchy? Why are they always itchy? They're always itchy. And I think it was just because the pubes were starting to grow, so there's like the hairs growing through the balls makes it itchy. Yeah. So that's that. And so when I was 12 years old, I had my first pube, and for whatever reason, I thought that growing pubes meant that you were gay. So I was like, oh my God, no, this can't be happening. This must be wrong. Oh, this must be a gay thing. This is something gay. Oh. So, and I was like, this means I'm gay. I can't tell anyone. I've got a pube. All right, this shouldn't have happened. And I promised myself to never tell anyone, that if I turned out to end up being gay in the future, I would never tell anyone. So I had that from my childhood as a kind of subconscious repression. You must not be gay. You must not think about anything gay. You must not remember anything that could be considered as gay from your childhood. You know, you must not think, must not see, must not allow your eyes to go near men at all. You know, and then of course they occasionally will, someone's butt will be in my view, and I'm going, oh no, I saw his butt. Oh, that means I'm gay. Quick, look away. No, I shouldn't be looking at people's butts. And I was just terrorized. I terrorized myself. My own internal thinking strategy terrorized myself about gayness and homophobia, basically. So it was a homophobic experience growing up in secondary school. And I was always being called gay and never knew what to do about it. Never knew whether it was even correct or not. But I never had a comeback either. So apart from to say it back to them, no, you're gay. No, you're gay. No, you're gay. You're gay. You're gay. You're gay. So it's just a massive homophobic fucking culture at school. Anyway, so when it came to Charlie pursuing me, I wasn't originally in the mood for it because although gayness was tolerable at the workplace that I was in, and it was new for me that gayness was tolerable, I still wasn't. I was just scared, basically. I couldn't like fully accept the gayness within, if there was any, which there may have been, there may have not been. Pardon me. I still don't know whether it was because I fancied him that I went out with him, or because he just pursued me so hard and I was just willing to experiment. And then I got emotionally addicted, or addicted would be a good way to say it. Codependent, emotionally codependent. So I got into this relationship with him, and then the pain was what drew me and kept me there, because to leave was going to be too painful. So it was mainly about my fear of how much it would hurt him, and then how much he would be angry at me or manipulate me or be mean towards me if I left. So I couldn't ever just separate from him until I did at the end. But that took a lot of strength, and I believe it kind of fractured my psyche in some way to go through the experience of being with him to the point where I actually wanted to leave him. Fucked me up, basically. So he pursued me. We had the thing with M on the side for a little bit before I got with Charlie, which I was trying to pursue that girl called M outside of work. So I'd text her after work and we'd meet up and do this thing with her group of friends. And then eventually they kicked me out of her group of friends because they found out that I was intending to try and get with M, but I hadn't realized that M was already with one of the other guys. She was with a guy called Chase, who was part of the group, and I hadn't clocked onto it. Even when I saw them kissing in the car park after one of our meetups, I still didn't fully allow that into my awareness. I didn't fully accept it. I just denied it, and I said, like, no, maybe it was a friend thing, and I just carried on trying to get with her and started pissing off the group. At the same time, we were smoking weed and I was doing hypnosis stuff. And I was trying to use my hypnotic techniques somehow to. I don't even know what I was attempting to do, honestly. I think I was just trying them out to see if they worked. That was it. Try out to see if it works. Can I do this? Is this real? Does this work? It kind of did work. But they saw it as me being manipulative. Even though we did a little bit of music, drums and bass and guitar one time with 3 of us in the room, high and just smoking weed. And then that was that. I drew this little kind of life map thing, which I remember drawing and then forgetting about it. It had things like my gran, my mum, my dad, my cat, my brother, my work, my band, all things that I felt were important to me. It was like, when I first drew it, I was like, whoa, man, yeah, because I was high at the time. And then afterwards, I was like, what the hell? And I never followed through with whatever I was trying to do with it, but I was trying to kind of see what is my relationship to all these different aspects of my life. And I never followed it through and finished it off, but fine. Okay, so Charlie was starting to pursue me, and the way that he pursued me was he just was trying to get close to me. I was trying to flirt with any other girls that were around. There was this girl called Tatiana who worked there. There was a girl called Christina who worked there, and I was trying to flirt with them, and it just wasn't going down very well. It wasn't working, and the thing with M had finished. I went on holiday with my friend Sam, who was also working at the Outback by that point, because I'd invited him to get the job, and he sat the little test that we all had to sit. There's this little test that you had to do, like a multiple choice test to get the job, and they sent it off to the head office, and he actually failed that test, and so they weren't supposed to hire him, but they hired him anyway because he kind of passed the personality test in terms of like in person. He was a decent enough guy in person, so they're just like, okay, we can allow for some of that, even though according to head office he shouldn't have got the job. But the manager of the store just said, okay, well, we want you on board anyway, so let's get you on board. So yeah, so so he was working there. Charlie was pursuing me. The way that he pursued me was to just get close to me by being preferential to me with giving me good sections, making sure that so he was a host person, so he stood on the host stand and he allocated customers to servers, and he drew out the sections that each server was going to have for their shift. So the section means which tables are allocated to you, so that you wait on those tables and serve the people who go to those tables, right? So there were various different sections that were allocated at the beginning of a shift, and he would do that. So he would I think he would actually be reasonably fair with his allocations, but then he would spin it that he was giving me better tables, even though he wasn't really, I don't think. He would also shift his rotas to be the same as my rotas, because he was in cahoots with a manager there was one front of house manager who was gay, and he would start shifting his rotas by twisting, like by buddying up with the gay front of house manager, and twisting it so that he could get shifts with me, right? Because this was his reason. he wanted to get lifts to and from work, mainly back to work, back to home. And I had a car and he didn't at that time. So it was based on me giving him a lift, but the only reason that he wanted me to give him a lift was so that he could get closer to me and so that he could work on me, try and get me, try and get me. Okay. Which is kind of sweet in a way, but also kind of like, how did I not see this? Why didn't I just go, maybe it was because I was curious, because at that time I was curious. And at that time as well, nothing bad had happened in terms of like no drama had happened. So I wasn't able to see into Charlie's character very deeply, and I didn't see the insecurities that were there inside him. I didn't see how he had so much pain and angst inside him that he wasn't showing. I didn't see that to begin with, so I didn't have any idea. Plus the fact that I was quite young, I didn't have a good sense of intuition about people at that time. I was just like, it was more surface level. Are you attractive or not? And he was kind of attractive. I guess, maybe. He had nice teeth. That's about it. He had nice teeth. Okay, so he pursued me. He changed his rotas to be at the same time as mine. He helped me finish my shifts quicker by cleaning up my tables, and then so he could get into the car and try and woo me as I took him home. And then I decided that I wanted to practice my hypnosis skills on him, so I did. I practiced my hypnosis skills on him, and I managed to get him to admit to me that he fancied me, which I don't know why exactly I did that. And then later on, I decided, okay, I need to experiment with my sexuality and see what's going on there. So we arranged between Charlie, this girl called Ali, and Sam and me to go for a party, get way drunk, and for me to end up shagging Charlie or something, doing something sexual with Charlie. That was the idea of the whole thing. Little did I know that Sam was intending on boning Ali, and they had been getting up to flirtatiousness behind Ali's boyfriend's back, which was the head chef, Ogo. So Sam had been working on Ali, so those two were going to have a thing, but I didn't realise that was going on. I didn't know that. So Ali was cheating on her boyfriend, Ogo, with Sam, and then I was going, I don't know what I am, let's try this out. I need to see I need to have one man on man, male on male sexual experience, at least one, to know. Okay, so we did that, had a mutual hand job after some hesitancy on my part, but we just did it, and it was good, I suppose. It was intense. I don't know whether it was good. It was intense. It was strong. It was a strong feeling, and afterwards, it's a feeling I don't really like, but it's a strong feeling. So there you go. Okay, and then somehow I managed to say I was in love with him, and then I felt like I couldn't leave him, even though I wanted to. So that was really it. Then I went on holiday, and I did more of my practicing of hypnosis skills, but I did this on some younger teenagers as part of the kind of, there was these groups. It was a sun sail type holiday, whereas activities and stuff. And while I was on the holiday, I was still reading the hypnosis book and practicing skills, and I managed to actually develop trance pretty good, to be able to induce people into trance quite easily and quickly, which I was just kind of a party piece that I would just get people to say things on command or do things on command and believe that they were such and such on command. So it was a little bit of kind of fun to mess about with and make it as a show, whatever. And I was kind of like the leader of this little group of teenagers who were more like 15, 16 years old, and I was or maybe even 14, and I was 19, but and I was kind of like the ringleader of this group, a group of teens But then they started following me around, and I was like, oh, okay, I don't want to. I just want to have time to myself now. I've made myself the leader on the first day by introducing myself, to kind of getting everyone to talk to each other, and then like a group leader would, really, like someone who worked there. I sort of took on the role of being someone who worked there for a while, even though I wasn't actually working there. And then they got attached to me as their little ringleader, and I was like, fuck, why have I done this? Now they follow me around. So I had to fuck them off, like, go, oh, can you leave me alone now? I just want to be by myself. It was a 1 day thing. It was just to get everyone talking so that I could ease myself in to the situation. But I did feel quite good being in that leadership position, you know. One of my skills at that time was getting other people to talk to each other and to feel at ease in a group. And I remember I was like in this sort of central point, and there was people all around me like that in a circle. And I was just kind of getting people to introduce themselves and to say a little bit about themselves. And I was making jokes about it and trying to get people involved like that. And that went down really well. And then, and I did that later on in the campaigns forum group actually as well. And I did that again when I moved into the Students Hall of Residence in Reading University. On our first day, I acted like some kind of ringleader person who was getting everyone to interface and talk to each other and make friends and stuff. So I kind of put myself in that position of leader just to get everyone to talk so that it would ease the tension. And I was very big on wanting people to have good relationships and create some kind of sense of community or whatever. So I did it in the halls of residence, and then I did it in the campaigns forum as well. That was my role, to try and get people to just talk and to be on the same page in some way, and to be the first one. Basically, I wanted to be the first one to start things because I was bold, I suppose, and I was bold, and I was not afraid as such to put my hand up or to stand up or to stand out or be the volunteer. I was always the volunteer. I was always that idiot volunteer in everything. In training at Legoland, I was that idiot volunteer. I would always put myself up to be the idiot volunteer because it was all about the performance and the feeling that if everyone's like not doing it, then I'll just I'll do it. I know that I want to do it because it's just one of those things that I like to do, is that I like to be that idiot guy who gets up in front of people and does the stupid thing or does the training thing or gets people to talk to each other, whatever. I was like, okay, I'll be the volunteer. I'll be the volunteer. I'll be the volunteer. I'll be the idiot. I'll be the one who everyone like is afraid to be, and I'll just be it because it's just no one else tends to do it, so I'll do it. If other people wanted to do it, that's fine, but I'd normally be like, I'll do it. Nowadays, I'm like, no, I've done that for too long now. I don't do that anymore. I'm just like, I do feel the urge to go, all right then, but then I just wait it out now. I'm like, I've volunteered too many times. I can't be bothered. I don't want to be the centre of attention right now. Not right now. Okay, so I'm just itching my balls. Maybe I got that. Maybe I got some pubes growing through there again. What can you see down there? You can't see much, but it's going on. It's going on. Anyway, oh man, I'm going through another second puberty. Okay, so, right. So where did I get to? So I got in this relationship with Charlie, even though I didn't want to. I started living with him in his house. Right. I don't know how that happened. To be fair, look how I'm talking about this. Like, I obviously went and carried on going out with him. Like, I could have left at any point. But I would always be feeling this guilt around the fact that I wanted to leave, but I didn't feel I was able to. So when I went on that holiday, Charlie was at home. I believe it was quite early on in our relationship at that time, and I wasn't really sure that I wanted to be with him. In fact, I didn't really want to be with him at all. I was thinking by that point, my band had broken up, even though we'd recorded this single in the studio nearby in Windsor called Running Frog Studios. The single was called Better. We did a second track called Love Drunk, which is just an acoustic track of me on the guitar, some singing with me and the bassist. Actually, bassist was playing bass as well. Jim was playing bass on that as well, and he did harmonies, right? So we did that, but because, as I said, Steph had left, then Chris the drummer could not do the gigs anymore, because he was still at school doing his A-levels and he wasn't therefore able to commit. He couldn't do the gigs, he couldn't do the rehearsals, he just didn't have the time and he didn't have the energy, and he had to focus his brain powers and emotional powers and time powers. His time was going all into his studies because he wanted to do well. He was also starting to deal drugs. That's another thing. Man. Yeah, for money. Anyway, that's nothing. That's a separate thing. But we would occasionally go around to Chris's and get high. So I was doing weed a lot around that time in my life. Until I had the prang out session with Jim after the gig we did at the Peel, where I had a blunt afterwards and pranged out and had all these crazy thoughts, and I thought like I was going insane, and I thought I was becoming Hitler, and maybe I'm a murderer. All this kind of like all this whoa crazy scary paranoid thinking came up, and this anxiety came up. Shortly after that I decided to quit, but I don't think I actually fully quit until a way afterwards, because I remember going to Oggo's house in his garage and smoking weed after work quite often and doing the thing called the bat. Right? Okay, so we got that covered. By the way, when I had the sexual interaction with Charlie, Oggo came along, which is Ali's boyfriend. Ali was cheating on Oggo with Sam. Oggo came along going, Ali, where are you, Ali? Right, and he comes along like midnight or past midnight, 2 o'clock or something. Charlie and I had just finished having our wank off session. Okay, we went down to see what was going on downstairs, see what Sam and Ali were up to, and there was Ali with her tits out, and Sam was about to get her more naked and get to shag her. And I believe they stopped, but they might have carried on afterwards. I can't remember what exactly was the case. But then Oggo shows up shouting across the hills, Ali, Ali, Ali. And he came along. And then Charlie's dad, Glyn, came out with not a sledgehammer, but a fucking fork, not a fork, a shovel. He came out with a shovel or spade. It was like a shovel spade thing. Armed with it, and I was thinking, fucking hell, man, were you actually going to use that on him? And he threatened Oggo, told him to go, basically, because it was late and you were shouting and stuff, and he had this thing, and Oggo was basically, somehow we managed to defuse the situation, and then we all just went home. I just went home in my car, still drunk, going, what the fuck? Okay, and then so work carried on as normal. I started living with Charlie because I realised I was already in a relationship with him anyway. That's what I thought to myself. And I said it to Sam when we were high one time. I'm already in a relationship with Charlie, so I may as well just say, yeah, we're in a relationship now. I fell in love with him, I guess, but I don't really think it was love. It was just some weird attachment thing. And mainly the guilt thing. It was just mainly a guilt that I felt that I couldn't stop hanging out with him because it would hurt him too bad, and I couldn't deal with the feelings that it would create in me if he was hurting. I couldn't face those painful feelings in myself, so I stayed with him out of guilt and fear, yeah, and anguish, anger, whatever. So, however, we got into a relationship, and I ended up living with him, firstly in his room in his house. I'm not exactly sure why he didn't come to me, like why I went to him. That's bizarre. That's interesting. I don't exactly know why it was that way around, because he never came to my place and stayed at mine. He never stayed at mine. I would always go to his. Possibly because I wanted to get away from my family and I wanted to sort of try and fly the nest in a way. And he wanted me to fly the nest, but I was just flying to his nest. So anyway, so I lived with him in his house, firstly in his room. I don't mean I just like lived in his room. I mean that was where we spent our time in the evenings. But yeah, so I lived with him in his house. I was also busking occasionally. So when I went on the holiday, I actually I didn't fully cheat on him, but I spent some time with a girl, holding hands, and in her bed holding hands and cuddling and stuff. It never got further than that, but I wanted it to. But I decided to stay faithful to Charlie, even though I didn't want to be faithful to Charlie. I was about commitment, and I had to stick to the commitment, even though I didn't want to stick to the commitment. I thought it was the right thing to do. So I didn't cheat on him, even though I wanted to. Even though, on reflection, it probably would have been better overall if I had cheated on him, because I fancied that girl. And I don't think I ever told him that I kind of had this mild fling with this girl on holiday. I fancied that girl. I didn't really fancy Charlie, if I'm honest with you. I didn't fancy Charlie. I was just with Charlie because I was with him. Because I couldn't leave him. I felt guilty to leave him. I didn't really fancy him. I didn't find him emotionally attractive either. I just found him to be insecure and whiny and needy, and maybe there was something about that attracted me, because I found him so gross or weird that I just wanted to find out what, like, this is so different to normal. I just wanted to explore, where does this come from, and are you even real? Like, what is this weirdness? The campness, the insecurities, the shyness, the shame about himself, the fears about himself, all of that stuff was really interesting to me, but not attractive, like for positive reasons, but interesting in that, like, psychologically, where has this stuff come from? This is weird. Yeah. I feel like I'm trying to defend against fancying him, but I don't think I did. Anyway, so I think it would have been better overall if I had cheated on him, but I stuck to my rules, which was the commitment rule or loyalty rule, even though my feelings were saying that I would rather not. I was just trying to stick to this principle, even though in the long run it fucked me up. So if I had that decision again, I would have cheated on him, and I would have gone back to Outback, and I would have met up with Charlie and said, look, this is not working. I don't really fancy you. I don't really fancy men at all either. I cheated on you while I was away, and I am sorry I did that, but this is over. I'm sorry. And that would be a really harsh breakup, but it would have been true, and that's what I should have done. And then maybe nothing would have happened with that girl further, because I think she lived further away, but still it would have been like the right decision for me, because my decision for myself, my desire for myself, was actually that I just wanted to carry on not being committed at that time. I felt like I was still young. I didn't want to be in a relationship. I wanted to experiment with girls and guys still, to make a more educated assessment of my sexuality. But I just got into this relationship with Charlie, and I felt like I couldn't leave. So I also couldn't really test out my feelings in contrast between men and women. So that didn't get resolved. And that's why I'm still talking about it now. God. Okay. Eventually I left the Outback, because I decided that since my band had fallen apart, because Jim said he couldn't do it anymore because we couldn't find a new drummer quick enough for Jim's liking, and it was really hard. We were stressed out. It was beyond our emotional capabilities to find a new drummer and to feel like things were going to be the same, because the band was an identity of itself. The four people who were in the band, we had created the music together, and it had been a couple of years, 2 or 3 years of us being together, and so we were friends, So to get a new person involved was like, it was going to be a big deal, and it was going to completely change everything. And so it didn't really feel like it was going to be Silent Dawn anymore, and it was just all too much, basically. And he was having dramas with his girlfriend. He was having dramas with work. I think he'd left the Outback by that point, and he was going to work at the George in Staines, I think. And and I think there's still some drama about his parents. I'm not exactly sure. So he was having a hard time. I was having a hard time on myself, because my sexuality was really still troubling me, and my relationship situation was troubling me. Before I ended up getting with Charlie, I thought that I might have fancied Jim, but I wasn't entirely sure, and I just said it to him while I was high, and then he freaked out about that, and he rejected me, like, leave me alone type of thing. So that damaged our friendship as well. So things just didn't go very well. Anyway, so the band ended there, and since the band had ended, I had decided to go to uni instead. So I'd made my UCAS application. I'd applied for art and psychology. I felt like the psychology was tying into the hypnosis stuff. I'd also read this book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink, and for me that was a new eye opener. It was an eye opener and an understanding into the world of psychology. I'd never really read anything much about psychology other than about hypnosis, but I was interested. I'm really interested in psychology, and I had this idea that I wanted to help people. It also tied into the Buddhism stuff that I was getting on with, and also when I went on that holiday, the same holiday that I almost kind of cheated on Charlie, I decided that I was going to become a vegetarian and I was going to move my way towards becoming a vegetarian. So I started on that holiday by reducing the amount of meat that I was taking. Then I completely stopped having any meat by the end of the holiday, and so I became a vegetarian. And I called myself a Buddhist, and I was meditating once a day or twice a day. And I was attempting to adhere to the 5 precepts of do no harm, steal nothing, don't drink alcohol. I think I must have gone teetotal then as well. I definitely was teetotal for a period of my life, yeah. Okay, because I know that when I went to uni, I was teetotal. Yeah, I forgot about that. I was teetotal for a year or so. And I don't know what the other 2 are, but yeah. Refrain from wrongful speech, so no lying. Did I always say lying? Do no harm, including potentially vegetarianism, because meat is harming animals. Do no harm, steal nothing, don't lie, don't take any alcohol or intoxicating substances, and whatever the other one is. Yay. Okay, so I was doing that, and I was researching Buddhism and reading Buddhist books and stuff and getting meditation books. I was starting to get hold of that, so my spiritual journey was starting. And my spiritual journey began really when I did a bit of work for my uncle to re-gravel his driveway, and he had done Chinese medicine. He was a Chinese medicine practitioner. He was an acupuncturist, and he did herbal medicine, Chinese medicine, from his home. He'd built a purpose-built set of buildings for his practice, so he had his kind of acupuncture bed thing, his herb deposit pharmacy, herbal pharmacy, if that makes sense, there, and he had this purpose-built shed thing, nice, really nice shed, and he'd decked everything out, so it's nice decking, and well manicured, I don't know what the right word is, sculpted garden, landscaped garden there, so it was a really nice place for people to come to. And I actually ended up going to have acupuncture with him on a few occasions. Firstly for anxiety, which actually cured the anxiety, and then later on for depression, which didn't work so well. It didn't really work at all, but oh well. It worked for the anxiety. Yeah, so... but it started because he had done the Chinese medicine and he was into Buddhism and Tai Chi and Qigong. All these kind of slow-moving... spiritual martial arts, energy healing type of stuff. So he was all into that kind of thing. By the way, him and my dad never really saw eye to eye about that stuff, but now I think my dad just kind of like goes, yeah, whatever. My dad was like always been about science, and my uncle David has always been kind of less firm about science, but my dad has always been evidence, science, reason, rationale. And David's been like, if it works and if it feels right, then okay, fine. So I tended to be more on David's side of that argument, because I just thought my dad was being too bloody minded about things, and he should just be a bit more open about things. Yeah, so whatever. So my Uncle David introduced me to the Dalai Lama, who I'd never actually heard of, I don't think, or just here and there, but he introduced me properly to the Dalai Lama, and he either lent me a book or I just decided to buy a book from the Dalai Lama called The Art of Happiness, The Way to a Meaningful Life, or something like that. Yeah, so read through that. That's where it was telling me about Buddhism and meditation and the 5 precepts and all that stuff, right? So I was reading that book while I was on holiday. That's where it all began, the spirituality path. Okay, and then all right. Sort of lost the train of thought. Oh yeah, so I was also doing artwork at the time as well. I had sketchbooks. I always had sketchbooks. I was also doing painting. and I was still doing music. So yeah, while Charlie and I were together, we went on holiday with my family to France, to a place that we would all go nearly every year, but not every year, but nearly every year we would go to this. Friend of the family have a house in France, and we would go and stay at their house, sometimes with them. Usually they would stay with us for a bit, or we'd stay with them for a bit. But so we would rent out their house, or my parents would rent out their house, and we would stay there for a week or two to have a nice, relaxing summer holiday in the sun, with not too much stress, and just kind of in the remote countryside, and not to do anything too stressful. And it was just nice, fairly low cost holiday for my parents anyway, because I didn't have my own money at that time. It was all parents. I mean, I had a little bit of my own money, but not that much. Yeah. So while we were on holiday, I decided that I wanted to record an album, and my dad somehow had recently got some new money from somewhere, and he was interested in funding a real recording project for the album. So we decided to do it there, and he said yes, he would fund it, because he wanted to have it as a kind of as something for him. Like, he just wanted it both to help me with my music career, and because he just wanted to hear things laid down and recorded, and to have that satisfaction of having helped to create something financially, So yeah, he wanted to have that satisfaction from having the product, and also from knowing that he'd helped me. And that was good. It was cool. I did feel guilty that he spent like $7,000 on the recording of it, because I started taking a bit of liberties towards the end, which I'm not exactly proud of. Anyway, so Charlie and I's relationship was messy, to say the least. But I had, as I said, when the band split up properly, I had decided I was going to go to uni, so I filled out my application form for UCAS to go and do an art and psychology course, because it tied into sort of everything I was interested in. Art, so I felt like the art aspect could be tied in with the drama stuff that I used to do, the film stuff that I was interested in doing in the future, and also I somehow thought that I could wangle my music as being part of the art thing somehow. I don't know, maybe I was thinking of doing album design stuff. And in fact, I did use some of the time in my art lessons to draw potential album artwork. And in fact, I don't think I've got it here on this one, but yeah. So in fact, the artwork for this album on the inside is created by a mismatch, a blending of some of the other art students who I was with at Reading University. I got them all in a room. I played the CD to them on these set of speakers, and I asked them to just draw how they thought they could represent the music, because I'd done a little bit of research into, like, have there been artists who have tried to represent music in their art? And there had been, and I just decided that I wanted to get these guys to do try and do a literal representation, if they could put what they heard into some visual form. That would be great. So I played the album a couple of times over. I think I played each song twice before moving on, so that they get a chance to do something for each song, like what do they feel from each song, and then put it down onto the page. And I got them to all do those pieces of work, and they all handed it in, and then I scanned them in or took pictures of them. It even says here, this piece of artwork is a fusion of 8 other pieces of work. The contributing artists created them while listening to an early version of the album. I then fused them together on my laptop using an image processing program. See booklet for the names of the artists and links to their web spaces. So I was trying to get some publicity for the other people in my art class, but it never actually came to anything, because I didn't ever sell any of those fucking copies. I gave away about 250 copies of them, but I don't know if anyone ever listened to them. Honestly, I really don't. Anyway, so I did the album. I went to uni, obviously. I did start studying art and psychology. I went to one lecture of the psychology thing, and I was like, this is not for me because this is too biological, and I wasn't interested in biology. I was interested in more people style psychology, so I was interested in counseling and helping people and talking about things. That was my angle of psychology. I didn't want to be learning about the brain and chemicals and neurology, or looking at psychology from an experimentation type of point of view. I was wanting to look at psychology more in terms of like, say for example, okay, what questions can you ask people to help them to deal with their problems, or what skills can you develop to help people to come to terms with their problems or deal with their problems, stuff like that. That was basically what I was looking at, and I didn't realize that that was what I wanted to do until I went to the psychology lecture and realized that it was all biological bollocks. And I was like, okay, no, I'm bored. I don't want to do this. This doesn't actually match up with what I've had the vision for myself for this course. So I didn't realize it was going to be so biology based because I hadn't done any research into how psychology was studied. I really just wanted to be a counselor or do some kind of helping work. So I went to my personal tutor and I said, meh. Oh, by the way, I got let into uni. I applied to a few different ones, but the one that I decided to go for, because I think I got offers from all of them. Can't remember exactly which ones I applied to, but I applied to Reading. And I accepted Reading's offer because when I went to Reading University, I just felt like I was at home. When I got there, there was a friend of mine who was already at Reading University, who I'd been at secondary school with. And I'd been to the other ones, the other campuses, and I just hadn't really felt it. I think I'd been to the other ones anyway. I might have even applied to Nottingham, which was where Andrea went. Or no, she didn't go there, but we went to Nottingham to check it out, and I think I applied there as well. I can't remember where I applied to be honest. But yeah, but when I went to check out Reading University campus, my friend showed me around a bit, and I just felt like, yeah, this is where I want to be. This feels like me. This feels like home. I had a good day, and it was all good. And so I went to this interview day where we had to show our portfolio to them. It was part of the acceptance offer. You had to go and show your portfolio to them first or something. And that was cool. That was a good day. There was a lot of attractive women in that day session, whatever. And one in particular stood out. Her name was Josephine, and she stood out because she was incredibly beautiful, the most beautiful woman I had ever seen at that point in time. But she had a really tragic, sad backstory. Her parents both had been killed in either one car accident or two separate car accidents, something like that. So I think it was one car accident. They'd both been killed in a car accident, and she lived with her brother. And yeah, she just had this kind of really far away feeling about her, like she just looked like she was permanently sad or something, but amazingly beautiful. And I remember talking to her and just wanting to get to know her, both for the fact of her really interesting and tragic past. I felt for her big time. I'd never come across anyone who'd lost both their parents. And I just felt so sort of gutted for her, and sad for her. And I wanted to get to know her also because she was really, really beautiful, like so beautiful. I kind of almost couldn't understand it. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. It may well be the case that I've never met as beautiful a person as that person ever since. It may well not be the case. But yeah. So she didn't actually end up going to the course, unfortunately. Maybe she didn't get accepted or what, but that was sucked. So, and I couldn't find her ever again because I didn't know her second name. I just know Josephine. Okay, fine. So if you're out there, Josephine, come back and we can have that conversation that I always wanted to have with you. I lamented not being able to speak to you again for quite some time. In fact, every now and again I would periodically like look up on Facebook, but all I've got is a first name. So what are you going to find with that? You know, how many Josephines could there be, though? She might have died in a car crash by now. Who knows? She might be ugly by now as well. People get old, don't they? Anyway, so so instead I hung out with this girl called Faye. And Faye was interesting because this was just on that interview day, I think. Faye was interesting because she was the first girl who I'd ever been vaguely attracted to and had a decent connection with since Andrea. So Faye helped me to break out of Andrea, like being locked onto Andrea completely. But I still ended up being addicted to Andrea in my brain for ages, even though I didn't do much about that on the outside level very often. I would occasionally try and get Andrea back by asking her out and stuff. So stupid. Anyway, but yeah, Faye was the first person who it's almost like I hadn't even realised that there were other women out there until Faye. That I hadn't realised that there were other people who I could connect with. And then so Faye, we just had a conversation in my car for a while. I think she already had a boyfriend, in fact, called Chris, and she lived quite far away. But I don't know whether she did have a boyfriend or not, actually, but she did later on. Yeah, but she was the first person who, as I say, who I found intelligent, who I had a spark with, who I had a connection with, who I felt that we could talk about things in an intelligent way and we connected. And so she helped me realize that there was more to life than Andrea. This is all way before Charlie, by the way, because this was part of the acceptance procedure to get into uni. Yeah. Weird. I don't know. It's just it sort of doesn't really make sense. Like, in what order did things happen? Well, yeah, so she opened my eyes to other women being available. She wasn't really particularly attractive facially. Um, in fact, she was kind of gross looking. She had moles and hair in weird places. It's like she should have been attractive, but she just wasn't quite. So it's sort of like there's an attractive person's face. I know this sounds really lame and bad, but there's an attractive person's face, and then go like that. Like just tweak every part of that attractive. So get a beautiful, attractive person's face, okay, and then just tweak the eyes so they're slightly right like that. Tweak the nose so it's slightly okay. Tweak the lips so they're slightly like that. Put some random bits of hair in places that shouldn't be there, and then so and then like give her actual hair itself a slightly grainy texture to it. So it's like she could have been really attractive. It's just oh, you know, you were doing so well, and then oh, what's that giant mole on your face, and why is your lip like this, and why does your nose go, and then why have you got these weird bits on your eyes? You know. Oh man. Yeah, people would be saying that about me, you know. So, but yeah, so she opened up my eyes to the fact that there were other people in the world that existed. God, such a dick. I used to have this theory that the longer you can be on the phone to someone, the better the relationship is. Like, that's the sign. That's a good sign. So I managed to keep her on the phone for 45 minutes. And I was like, oh, yeah, 45 minutes. That means she must be into me. And we had a good time, a good conversation for 45 minutes. Honestly, I think she probably was just trying to get away as much as she could. But she just felt bad for me. And then I went through this stupid thing, and she didn't reply to one of my calls, and I like miscalled her like 13 times. Yes, I was that guy. I was that stupid guy who miscalled her 12 to 14 times. Not exactly sure how many, but it was definitely 12, if not 14. It was a bad little moment there. So I took all my grieving angst from Andrea and I just put it straight onto Faye and became obsessive about the new person. But luckily, she was clever enough to say, can you stop calling me, please? And I did. So, yeah, that was bad. And I found a shoe, would you believe? Why is this relevant? I found a shoe when I was calling her. It was by the side of the road. This is true. I found a high-heeled shoe by the side of the road while I was walking back from somewhere and calling Faye and wondering why the hell she wasn't fucking calling me back or picking up. But I found a shoe, and then I think I must have just thrown it away. But I found a shoe. That's true. I found a shoe. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the moral of the story.